They're all NIVs, just like what I've got.
Good for you. 3,
No.
2, 1.
Don't.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday night Bible study class. We're on Facebook Live and we're recording for our website. And so tonight we got a lot that I want to get done. For those of you that have watched us or been in our class, hi, Pastor Dave. Oh, I got to go through and do my paperwork thing here. I forgot.
Your announcements.
Yeah, I got to do announcements. Let's see. I guess when I'm doing this, I can do this. I never thought of that. I'm not very good at multitasking, though. We are meeting, as usual, in the Harvard Park Baptist Church and Community Center. The Community Center is a separate building, and they run most of their ministries through this Community Center. It's a beautiful building. So if you're looking for a place that you need to meet, your group needs to meet, this is the place to go. Now grab a pen, because I'm going to give you a phone number in a minute for you to write down. But before I do that, I want to continue to talk about and to push one of the ministries they do here. It's a really great ministry. They do it every Friday from 11 to 1, I believe. And this ministry is called Blessing Closet. They'll even come around and pick you up. But what they do, it's a ministry designed for down and out, or just people that want to be a part of it. Anyway, you get dinner, or, well, that's what we call it in the South. I guess up here they call it lunch. You get lunch at 11. Then after lunch, you get up to 3 outfits, full outfits that you can take with you. And I've seen them, they're nice outfits. The pastor of the church is really happy with the way the ministry is going. He says it's adding to his congregation, and that's the purpose, one of the purposes of ministry. So we're really happy about it. We want to continue to push it. If you would like to participate, here's a phone number, 947-252-2565. They do need volunteer help, by the way, because they get the food, they cook the meals, they clean up, they get the clothes out, they get the clothes. I mean, it's a big deal, so they need all the help they can get. So if you're interested, here's the phone number again, 947 is the area code, 252-2565. Also, I want to talk about WorldSpan Tutoring Services. It is a tutoring service specializing in kindergarten through 4th with reading and math. Mickey Shell is she's a licensed teacher in the state of Illinois, and this is her specialty. She's been teaching for a long while. So if you have kids, grandkids, or you just want to help a kid, again, keep that pen handy, because I'm going to give you a number in a minute. But reading and math is one of those things, life skills. I mean, you may not need geometry and a job, or you might not need physics, but you will need reading and math throughout life. So it's important that you get this. So if you have a kid that's falling behind or needs help to be caught up, call this number, 217-761-5535, and ask for Mickey Shell. You can text also.
Please text. Yeah.
And they will return. Just leave your info, your contact name and phone number, and they will either text you or call you back. Mickey Shell, WorldSpan Tutoring Service. And if anybody out there knows how to get these pop-ups to stop coming up on my computer, please mail me. I'm sick of those. All right. Well, tonight, well, first off, I guess I should say, we did not have our normal talk while we had dinner tonight, but we did come to an agreement. We are not having class next week. Next week is Thanksgiving week. And years past, I usually do have class, but I just decided, actually the class decided, and I am in full agreement. It's a busy week. We're starting the holidays. There's no sense in trying to cram it. We'll just take it nice and easy. We'll take it week by week and see what happens, but no class next week. And we'll reserve Christmas week and see what happens then. Okay, I want to follow up with last class. If you didn't watch our last class, which was 2 weeks ago, you need to go back and listen to that because I had, to give you a quick thumbnail, I had bought a house and things had happened and having trouble renting it, and God showed me that it was a teachable moment that I was not using to teach. So last week I went through and I said, you know, the upshot of it was that God blessing you is not all about puppy dogs and rainbows. There are tough times, and I was in the middle of one and I was not sharing it. So I shared it last week, and I brought everybody up to speed. And this last week has been amazing.
Praise God.
So I want to go through, I want to give God glory for all that He did. And again, by the way, does anybody know that, and I've taught this twice, Henry Blackaby did a book and I can't remember the name of it. It was huge back in the late 90s. And then Henry Blackaby and his son did a follow-up. Anyway, if you can think of it, let me know. But I'm going to be referring to that here in a little while. So last week I went through and brought, hi Dennis, hi Howard. So I taught last week and I hadn't had any movement, and frankly I got up the next day and I was expecting nothing, completely forgot about it. So I walk into the office and my boss, who has been at odds with me for several months, again, it was a God thing, but I walk in and she says, hey, would you like a biscuit from McDonald's? And I was like, wow, really? And so anyway, I was like, wow, that was really odd, Lord. I think that's a let's kiss and make up kind of deal. But it was good. And I didn't think anything about it, though. It was good. So I walked out. About an hour later, I got a phone call from a guy on the phone looking for a place to rent. And so I told him the rent. I went through the details. And I could tell on the phone this was not good tenant material. So I hung up the phone and God said, call him back and knock $50 off the rent. I was like, okay. So I called him back and he said, well, it's funny that you called. My wife and I were just sitting here talking and we were thinking that's a little over our rent, over our budget. And I said, well, I'm going to knock $50 off just because it's the time of the year and I'm getting no movement. He said, oh, okay. Made no commitment. So he hung up. We played phone tag back and forth. Finally got him to go see the apartment. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, still no commitment. on that day. But still got an iron in the fire. So I go to work, my second job that night, and my boss comes to me, and she's got great big eyes, and she says, I redid the number. Okay, we have an incentive program where if you sell so much, you get a bonus, and it's a nice size bonus. And she had checked it before, and we didn't get it. So I go in on that, and she says, I rechecked it, we did get it by 10 bottles. So I was like, oh, wow, cool. So that means like an additional $400 for me. So in one day, I got all of these things that never happened to me. And when she said that, I was like, okay, now I know what's going on. Got it. Thank you. The tenant calls me the next day, and he says, so when can we get together and take a look at it? And so it was early in the week, and I couldn't go till I think it was Sunday. So in the meantime, he and I have conversed back and forth, and I now know that my first instinct about him was right. And let me explain to you. He has said he may come to this Bible study class, so I'm not going to. But suffice it to say, he couldn't get a secured credit card because of his credit rating. And his wife was no better. He had spent time in prison for domestic. And when I asked specifically about the domestic, he said, well, that's what they called it. He said, I walked in and saw some guy had my wife over the table beating her, and I beat him to within an inch of his life.
Whoa.
And he said, I was guilty, and I did 10 months, and I would do it again. And I thought, okay, I kind of get it. I'm not sure I wouldn't have done the same thing. And then I put two and two together, and I thought, well, if you're in prison, it's kind of hard to pay your bills, and if you can't make money, you can't pay your bills. So I start putting it together. So then I started asking him about his work history, and he's been at the same job for 7 years, and he's had the same landlord for 7 years. So I called his employer. We went through, he liked the house. Oh, so then he comes to look at the house. He says, I still can't afford it. I'm a little over. The highest I can go is X. And I said, without question, I said, okay, that's fine. So we filled out an application. So now I've knocked $75 off the rent per month. Okay? And I told him at the time, I said, you need to know, I used to do this for a living. I've never negotiated with a tenant outside of the fact of, you do the work and I'll knock stuff off, security deposit, that kind of thing. So, but I've never lowered the rent. And I said, I'm only doing this because I feel like you're from God and I'm supposed to help you. And he says, we're Christians too, and we go to Westside Christian Church, and we felt like this was from God also. That's why we're here. And I said, oh, okay. Well, that's confirmation. So they filled out the application. And normally I would run credit bureaus and background checks and all that. And I thought, why would I do that? I already know. I mean, if you're looking at a pile of dog poop on the ground, you know that it's dog poop. You don't need to stick your finger in it and taste it, right? So why am I going to do that? So,
So is he dog poop?
no, I'm just saying you don't need further confirmation on something that's obvious. So, I called his employer,
Bad analogy.
and he said, actually, it's a pretty good one. And he said, well, he rented for me before he worked for me. I said, okay, I said, here's my fear. If I'm renting for my boss, I'm gonna make sure you get your money. But as soon as I leave that comfort, what motivation do I have to pay my rent? And his boss said, if he doesn't pay you, you call me. I'll see that he does, because I control his paycheck. And I was like, okay. Before I did this business for 10 years, I never had an employer do that. Ever. So I said, okay. Now, remember I told you I knocked $75 off of the rent, and I was kind of stressed about that. So we went to sign the lease, and I said, do you guys have a lawnmower? And he said, no. I said, well, you're going to need to get one for the yard. And he said, well, the ad said that you would take care of lawn care. I said, yeah, that was at that price, not at this price.
Right.
At this
Come on
price,
now.
you're going to need to take care of that. And he said, oh, okay. There's no problem. So then I said, I'm going to want a guarantee transfer from your bank account to my bank account, so I'm not messing with you every month for the rent. I'm not going to do that. No problem. We now have an appointment for day after tomorrow. We'll see if that follows through. I believe it will.
Praise God.
Now, we had the deal all done. And remember I was telling you about the book by Henry Blackaby.
Knowing and doing the will of God.
That's it, thank you.
What's that?
Knowing and doing the will of God.
Yes. It's a great study. We did it every time I've done that study, 3 times I think. Amazing miracles have happened in my class. And you were with me with one of them. Were you with me?
I think so. Was it Moses on the front cover of that one?
Yes.
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Who is that author?
Henry
Henry.
Blackaby. And I think the last revision they did, I think his son is with him in that one.
Yeah, I remember us doing that. Yes.
But it-
B-L-A-C-K-A-B-Y?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
So there's a part in there that I never really understood. And it says, when you go to do the will of God, there comes a point between believing and action that he called a crisis in faith. He said, in order to grow and mature, you have to come to that crisis of faith and make the right choice. Otherwise, your blessing doesn't happen. And I never really got that. But I had this deal all signed, sealed, and Satan started whispering in my ear. And I started getting cold feet. And I was hearing things like, well, this guy's a piece of garbage. He's going to end up screwing you. You're going to be worse off now than you were before. I mean, over and over and over. And I about backed out. But I finally, I just kept praying about it. And I just finally decided, I said, God, I'm all in. No more hedging, no more security blanket. I'm all in. This is all on you. It's nothing to me. And I told God in my prayer, I said, as a business person from years ago, this is a bad deal. I will lose on this deal. The only way this turns good is if you're involved. So I'm going to trust you. We signed the lease. We set the appointment. We go to the bank day after tomorrow. So far, so good. Now, that doesn't mean it can't turn south. And here's the thing. Once I deducted off, and I had no idea about this, But once I deducted off the lawn care that I was gonna pay, I came out about the same.
Praise God.
Sweet.
Before I lowered the rent, and then I lowered the rent and then took off the lawn care, came out about the same. Now, here's something I didn't know. God's timing is perfect,
Yes, it
Yes, it
is.
is.
because I had set up a checking account and a checkbook and all that just for just for that house. In my mind, I still had about $100 left in that account. It's getting close, but I still had about $100. And after we signed the lease, I heard the Holy Spirit say, "You need to check your account." So I went back and checked my account. I had forgotten to write a check down. And I had paid all the bills. And I had no idea who this check was to or for. So when we signed the lease, he gave me the prorated till the end of the month. I went to the bank, deposited it, got the amount of the check. I had mailed that check like 4 days before, so it was ready to hit the bank any day. Had that check hit and I not signed the lease when I did, that account would have been overdrawn.
Wow.
So I deposited just in time to cover all the bills.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
Now,
I love it when God just lets things fall into place for you, if it's His will for you to have whatever it is.
so the ending of this portion of it was this. I said, "Lord, there's really no way for me to know this is you except for time, but I am going to ask you a favor." Much like the story in the Bible where he goes to somebody, I don't remember who it was, and he questions God and says, "If this is from you, please put the dew in the leaf." And then the next time he says, "Put the dew around the leaf." I said, all I really want is, because I'm so uneasy about this, just give me peace.
He will.
So I don't want to lose sleep over this. I mean, it's only money and I really don't care, but I have this thing about right and wrong, and I just feel like I made a wrong decision. Prove me wrong. Just give me peace, and if I have peace, I'll know this is from you. I had total peace. No questions.
This happened today?
This happened the end of last week.
And today we prayed for you in Bible study about your tenant.
Yep. Good. Thank you. I appreciate the prayer.
Today that was something I really asked everyone to pray, that you get a perfect tenant, because you deserve it. And what happened with the other lady.
Right. So, I mean, Satan could work in him and his family, and who knows what's going to happen. But for right here and for right now, I know that I know that I know that God provided the right person to handle my neighbor, the right person to take care of his house and to take care of his bills. And so for that, he gave me peace, and hopefully we'll get the house taken care of. So I wanted to give God some glory for that.
Whew, praise God.
Okay, tonight is Psalm 90. And before we get started on that, I want to do pause for prayer, P-A-U-S-E, pause for prayer. And this is a part of the class where we take our whole ministry is based on prayer, from the digital to the website to the prayer boxes. Everything is all based on prayer. And so I want to, and I try to take 3, 4, 5 prayers a week and put them out there. And I ask that you would pray for these folks at least one time a day for the next week.